you may just have to try to speak up.
Okay.
And just
Okay.
go from there, but I will go ahead and do roll call. So I'll start back with Board Member Danielle Peoples,
Here.
and then Board Member Kit Paraguay,
Here.
Chairman Brad Jefferson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Rusty Ingram,
Here.
Board Member Kelly Kaiser,
Here.
Board Member Thomas Brownell,
Here.
and then Board Member Marshall Bow.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Kendrick. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. I have no chairman's remarks other than to say it's my birthday and I get extra credit for that, for being here. Thanks.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. All right, well, and with that, we'll move on to action item 5A, or 6A.
And Mr. Chairman, Ms. Jessica Rue will be presenting that item.
Okay?
Sure. Can you advance the slide? I'll do it. I'll talk for right here. Back in May, we brought forth to you a text amendment that was requested by the Redevelopment Commission, and that was to allow residential uses to enjoy the same relaxed standards, not only in the R6 district as it was written, but in all districts within the RDC boundary. And in looking at this in practicality, we realized we did not call attention to what to do in the event there are conflicting standards between an overlay district and the underlying zoning district. And so we are asking you, advance the slide please, to bless this. It is similar to what you forwarded on to the Board of Aldermen. A public hearing has been scheduled for this for August 8th, I believe, their next meeting. This will still stand and move forward, but we are asking for you to make a suggestion, if you agree with the RDC and staff, to add clarity on how to apply the overlay districts when they exist in that area. This has been blessed by the RDC and re-recommended to you, and staff supports that recommendation.
We are going to open a public comment on this item because it is part of our rules and procedures. Before I do that, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that's here and at home, if you can hear me. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments should be directed to the board, city staff, and to be relevant to the action item being discussed. Please note this is a comment period, so the board is not taking or responding to questions at this time. But at this time, I will open to anyone here that would like to speak on the item 6A. Hearing none, I'll open it up to the board for discussion.
This does seem pretty straightforward as a clarification.
I would agree. I'll entertain a motion on this item. A motion, any motion.
And just to be clear, Mr. Chair, because this is a text amendment, we are going to also incorporate the consistency or inconsistency statement. So the motion maker will want to address both their support or lack of support for the change, as well as the adoption of the consistency or inconsistency statement.
All right, we'll give this a try. I'll make a motion that we adopt the change and find it consistent with our land use code and make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen to approve the text amendment.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. On to item 6B. Guess I should read this. The 2409 Oaks Road rezoning.
Mics still aren't working, but I'll do my best to sit here and speak louder.
Like it.
I appreciate the offering there, Mr. Chairman, and just explaining this was for 2409 Oaks Road. I'll be presenting the second item here, and this is MAPA, or MAPA 003-011-2025. And the request summary, the applicant is Mazen Algaradi, and the owner is Nasr Algaradi. The location, again, is 2409 Oaks Road, New Bern, North Carolina. The current zoning is residential 6S or R-6S. The requested change is to go from R-6S to commercial 3. And the parcel identification number is 8-019-008. And the size of the parcel approximately is 0.248. And just a comment, as you may remember, this was the item from the previous meeting that was continued. I'm not certain that the applicant or owner is here, but they may be. Regardless, we'll proceed forward as normal. They did not indicate that they wanted to change their application from, the original proposal. So this is what we proceeded with. And in the residential 6 or R-6 zoning district analysis, essentially this is just a residential district that is designed to accommodate single and two and also multifamily dwellings. It also encourages the continued use of for residential purposes and certain compatible non-residential uses. It's also to prohibit commercial and industrial uses of land, to prohibit any other use which would also substantially interfere with the development or continuation as being residential structures. This also is to encourage the discontinuance of existing uses that would not be permitted as new uses in this district. And in the commercial 3 zoning district analysis, it is to encourage for offices, personal services, and the retailing of durable and convenience goods. This district also will generally align with city major radial roads. And because these districts will be located on higher volume traffic arteries and will be subject to the view, not only of local residents, but tourists, other non-local motorists, and also offer ample off-street parking, controlled traffic movement, and an appropriate appearance, including suitable planting, shall be provided. So that's sum it all up. It's just screening or buffering. So, and the use comparisons or uses comparisons, you can see here to the left we've got residential 6S, and to the right we have commercial 3. And I'll just briefly leave that for you to be able to look at. And for this first map, we have the vicinity map, which this highlights the parcel in red. And that's followed by the buffer map. And the buffer essentially is just showing you all the properties that fell within the 100 feet from the property lines for that actual subject property. And those folks should have received a letter of some sort that's just indicating about the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, as well as what the subject property is being zoned for. And now recently, they would not have received a letter. When you're doing a continuance, we do not have to renotice. That's followed by the aerial map here. And then you have the zoning map, which reflects its current zoning as the R-6S. And then if the board has no questions, the actions needed next would be the adoption of a consistency statement and the recommendation for the Board of Aldermen. Does the board have any questions?
Board have questions for Kendrick?
Kendrick, I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The application indicated that this would be a return to the previous use for this parcel. Now, it seems like that might have been a non-conforming use. Do you have any historical information on this parcel that would be helpful for us?
The only thing I've heard, there was a comment from the fire marshal with the fire department. He actually made the comment that he has done several inspections for what was commercial. But at the same time, it is not really necessarily justifiable because it was never actually declared in that respect by, obtaining a proper permit is what I'm saying. I don't know that permits were necessarily required or how they were required back at that particular time frame. So it's hard to say, It's not to say that it couldn't have been established legally, but you can't really prove it. I haven't found anything that would say different. So I'm sorry, I can't really answer that directly.
Yeah, I saw it mentioned in, I think, 2 of the questions in the questionnaire on the application form that this would be
Yes, ma'am.
taking it back to the previous use. So I wanted to make sure I understood that
I
nuance.
got you. A lot of people have said that it's operated as a store previously of some sort, but again, it's subjective in a lot of ways because we don't know what permits they may or may not have obtained during that time period.
I'd like to add to that because I read in there that they stated to go back to the previous zoning, not just as the use, but to the previous zoning. And to your knowledge, has that ever been zoned anything but R6?
I have not seen anything different. I believe I had a minor conversation with our GIS personnel, and there was nothing that made it or showed that it was previously zoned something different. So I don't know if that may have been an accident when they introduced it. I have no clue.
So when it was purchased by this individual back in 2019, it was zoned R6.
Yes, sir.
He saw that as a R6 zoning.
To my understanding, yes, sir. And from what I also understand, the property owner was told prior to purchase, but again, I wasn't there for that conversation, but that's just what's being said, so.
Any more questions for Ken? All right, thank you, sir. Just point of business before we continue. For each action item, we go through a staff report, then we do a public comment, and then we allow the applicants to speak. So that's the order, just in case you're wondering. So with that, I'll open up to public comment on this item. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Duffy, 121 Morning Dove Trail, New Bern, North Carolina.
Okay, thanks.
The reason I'd like to address this is that during the last hearing on this, there were a couple of 3 errors of fact. I also have the explanation as to the 2 questions that were asked as to how it came to be this way, and that's the first point. There's one part opinion here. I'll skip over that and let you guys. I also have copies for you guys if you want to follow this. So, I'll start here. Township 8, which makes up most of the 5th ward, was annexed to the city of New Bern sometime between 1983 and 1992. This is based on reviewing my own deed and others in the area. And clearly they say prior to 1983, all of them, that this was Township 8. After that, they say, it says Township 8 near New Bern. So it was not New Bern, and that's why all of these commercial zones were allowed, because Framingham County had them. So that's it, okay? The other fact was that the question was asked by, I believe, Mr. Ballard as to whether this case had been heard before. It had actually been heard 3 times by the Board of Order. The first time was in petition, well, you already got it. The first hearing for C3 was held on June 11, 2019. The C3 rezoning was rejected unanimously by the board 7-0. The applicant then applied for C4, as you guys discussed last time. And at that time, because vape shops could no longer operate in C4 zones and tobacco sales were limited, that's why that was withdrawn. The objection was Oaks Road Elementary School came up. A public hearing was held on May 12th on C4. Initially, the motion failed 4-3, but unfortunately, after the public hearing closed and after everybody was gone, one of the aldermen, someone called a recess, and one of the aldermen wanted to change his vote. And because that was not practical, it was reheld the hearing on July 14th, 2020. After this hearing, the C4 was rejected 5-2. The rest is my opinion. I don't know if I'm allowed to give that or not. My opinion is that commercial zoning, rezoning of this property could be much easier if we had conditional zoning. And the last one is a fact also, is that a study by the North Carolina School of Government showed that 82% of rezoning in cities our size were conditional rezoned.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duffy.
You want these copies?
Sure, if Kendrick would like to pass them out, yeah, we'll take them.
And yourself.
While Kendrick's passing those out, are there any other comments to be made on this item?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kendrick.
All right, with that, I will open it up to the board for discussion.
Well, for me, I don't think my mind has been changed by any of the information that we've been given since. I still hold that this is on the side of the street that is all residential. There is commercial across the street, but it's more industrial type, even though it's zone C3. And I don't think this is in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. So that's my opinion on this particular point.
I also don't think there's ample parking, being that it's such a small lot, it's a quarter acre. If you have a store, you have no parking on that. So it's all going to be street parking, which is going to interfere with all the neighbors.
Yeah, street parking on that road would be interesting, to say the least. Any further discussion from any other members of the board? Had a long conversation on this one last meeting.
I'll add that in driving by and looking at this property, there is a structure on the property that suggests that it was used as a business, a little grocery market type thing. So the challenge of having a structure that is conducive to commercial use, but not being able to use the parcel for commercial use, I understand that predicament for the owner. And we of course discussed this at length last time, but I think this is one of those, like many of the things that we consider, that for the consistency statement, it's very easy to make the point either way, that it's consistent with being commercial or it is consistent with being residential. So I would encourage us to think about our community and what's best for the community in that area, reiterating that this was an area that was hit rather hard by Hurricane Florence. There's still a fair amount of recovery going on in that area. When you drive down that street, there are commercial uses across the street. So it wouldn't be an abrupt thing to have a mix of residential and commercial as you drive down. You get a little farther into Riverside and you've got the hardware store and the gas station. And again, there is a structure that sits there that seems conducive for a commercial use. So in the best interest of the community and acknowledging that there's nobody here necessarily speaking against this rezoning, folks were notified folks were notified the one time. I continue to feel strongly that we ought to consider this rezoning to commercial.
The main problem I have with it is C3. That's a heavy and broad-reaching commercial zone that I don't fit. I mean, it's in a neighborhood, and C3 is a little, to me, and the allowable uses that are there in a C3 are not conducive to a residential neighborhood, which is all going down that side of the street. The C3, regardless of what this individual owner thinks he's going to do with it, the C3 will stay with that property forever. And that's what my main concern is with it is that we're making a decision, and we do this often, based on the person standing in front of us, without regard to the next owner or the next owner, which might be a month from now, and what their intended use would be. And C3 is just too wide-reaching, in my opinion, for this location.
And I also think in the last meeting, we went through, as Danielle stated correctly, I mean, we went through a lot of conversation about this. And on one side, while she was talking about the benefit to the community and things like that, there were comments made about the fact that it might be detrimental to the residents that are living on that side of the street for parking reasons or other reasons. So, taking into account everybody, you can see it either way. And we had that conversation last month, that you could go either way on this. But point well taken, Kim.
Kendrick, remind me, the across the street over there, those commercial zonings, is that C3 or C4?
C3.
C3?
It's C3.
I agree with part of Kip's statement in the fact that this is where, both on this board and at the Board of Aldermen, this is where the discussion needs to be had, because that zoning goes with that lot forever. Once somebody comes in and they want to do a thing, they've already got the zoning. That's where the argument is made. And so it's supposed to be the way it's supposed to work is when you buy the property and you rezone it to whatever you want it, whatever it is, they can then do what is allowed in that zoning. And so this is really where the conversation should be had at the board and at this board, the Board of Aldermen and this board. That's really all I have to say. I think that the rezonings are more important, need to be thought of more important in that regard going forward, because Kip is right. Oftentimes it's, well, what are you going to do with the property? And it's like, that doesn't really matter. It's the long-term vision.
And to that point, Mr. Chair, it's important to remember as you analyze this application, you want to think about all permissible uses.
Correct.
So I think Kendrick had a slide that analyzed the comparison between the two, but as you look at your table of permissible uses, reimagining if someone were to demolish the existing structure and re-envision that property, would you feel that the other permitted uses in a C3 would be suitable, reasonable, conducive, and consistent with our land use plans and adjacent uses?
Any other discussion on the side?
To Jamie's point, nothing on that list of commercial uses gives me personally pause.
Well, if you go to the table of permissible uses, there's a whole lot more in there that will show you what's allowable in C3, and it's a long list. I think this list is somewhat short. It's abridged. So there's a lot of stuff in there that could be done on that particular piece of property that was changed to C3.
Is there something within those items that you feel would be inconsistent?
I feel like it opens it, rather than talk about individual things, I think it opens it up to a gamut of possibilities where this area has been residential and probably has been now for many years, because there hasn't been a store there, even if it was legal at the time, but it sounds like it wasn't. Even if there was some sort of commercial use there, it hasn't been there in a long time. So, the residents are the residents on that side of the street. So I would say, I think it opens it up to way too many possibilities, just in general. That would be my opinion.
Any further discussion on the side?
And to confirm, the applicant is not here.
Is the applicant here? Don't believe so. I'll entertain a motion, or we can continue to discuss. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion that we ask the Board of Aldermen to decline this request and that it is not consistent with the land use.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? With that, Kendrick, I'll call for a roll call vote on this item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And I'll start off with Board Member Danielle Peoples,
No.
Board Member Kip Paraboy,
Yes.
Chairman Brad Jefferson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rusty Ingram,
Yes.
Board Member Kelly Kaiser,
Yes.
Board Member Thomas Brownell,
Yes.
and Board Member Marshall Ballard.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And, yep, Mr. Chairman, that vote was 6-1.
6-1. All right. On to item number 6C, 750 Highway 55 West, initial zoning.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. For this next item is REZ 003084, 2025, and this is for 750 Highway 55 West. It's the initial zoning. And the request summary, the applicant here is the City of New Bern. The owner is Tanya L. Dillahunt, and the location is 750 Highway 55 West New Bern, North Carolina. Current zoning is unassigned. This was previously annexed in, as you may recall, when it came about in discussion previously for our, I can't recall exactly that meeting date, but it is still unassigned with as far as rezoning. The requested change by the City of New Bern is for residential 20 or R-20, and the parcel identification number for this first property is 8-222-30001. And the approximate size is 0.94 total acres. And the residential 20, just the zoning district analysis, a brief overview. Essentially, it's for low-density single-family dwellings with 20,000 square feet being the minimum lot size. And this is to encourage construction of and the continued use of land for low-density single-family or multifamily dwellings. It also encourages the preservation of rural character, and is to prohibit any commercial or industrial land uses and prohibit any other influx of uses likely to render it undesirable. So in addition to that, it's to discourage the use which, because of its character or size, that would create requirements and costs for public services such as police and fire protection. And again, to encourage the discontinuance of existing uses that would not be permitted as new uses in the district. And for this first map here, you have the vicinity map that just shows the parcel in red. And that's followed again by the buffer map. This is with all the properties within 100 feet. And followed by the aerial map, which just shows you what's on the ground. And then our zoning map, and again, this is, of course, unassigned. So you're seeing the different districts that are surrounding it, along with some other county properties. And the action needed at this time from the board would be to adopt a consistency statement and a recommendation for the Board of Aldermen. But I'll take questions from the board if they have it.
Board have questions for Kendrick?
Kendrick, I'd go back to the last slide that shows the zoning on this one.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
for clarity, I know this is not the first time that this is before this board to look at. Every time we get property annexed into the city of New Bern, we need to assign a zoning district to that because it doesn't have one. If you recall, several years ago when I first started working here, I was kind of horrified to find out we had 32 properties that have been annexed in and never given zoning. That's why you're seeing these come up more closely to the time they are annexed in now, and then we've got several of them this evening. As a staff, we need to look at what's going on in that area, look at the actual development, and look at the zoning when we're applying an initial district or recommending an initial district. And typically, we'll work with the property owner, and if it makes sense, we will recommend the zoning district that they would like to have to avoid having to go back and perhaps they don't like what they were assigned, and they can, of course, always follow the process and request a rezoning again. In this instance, you're going to see a 0.93 acre tract of land here, which is relatively small, in a rural area. It's typically rural. When you look at what's on this map in front of you, which is the immediate vicinity, what you're seeing is A5. So that's very, very low density. And then you've got some of these other ones that have been annexed in at R20. So in keeping with that spirit of low density. And so I know you're going to hear from the applicant about their take on what this is. Our staff is recommending the R20 in keeping with the spirit of what's going on in harmony with that area.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Root? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. With that, I'll open it up for public comment. Anybody wants to speak on this item? All right. Hearing none, would the applicant like to make any remarks on this item?
Yes, I would.
Wow.
My name is Gary Clemens, I'm a lawyer with Chestnut and Clemens, and I represent the landowner and might as well talk about both of these at the same time because they go together. It's item number C, which is 750 Highway 55 West, and along with that is item number D, which is 784 Highway 55 West. And I'd like to point out a few facts for the board to consider another option other than R20. Okay, and that's what my point is. So first, the landowner itself is Tanya Dillahunt. And Miss Dillahunt does not live here. She lives in Texas. But her father is Jimmy Dillahunt, and Mr. Dillahunt is here. The reason he has authority to be here is because there is a recorded power of attorney for him to act in the Register of Deeds office. So I do have copies of those. If that's not an issue in this case, then I'll move forward. Otherwise, I'll talk about the merits of what we're here to do. So the proposal that we would like to do, I'd like to talk about two options other than R20. So if you look at the 750 Highway 55 West, Exhibit 3. All right. So the proposal, I'm sorry I don't have access to the PowerPoint. I'm just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way like old lawyers used to do.
I like it.
So, and I know that's kind of hard to see from where you are, but the first proposal is R8. So if you look at the requirements under R8, it talks about single or two or multifamily dwellings with a minimum of one lot of 8,000 square feet and the other lots of 4,000 square feet. So here's basically what the whole project is between items number C and D together. Okay? So the same landowner owns all of this under item C and item number D. And so C, basically, the proposal of the landowner is to have 4 lots surveyed, divided up with a single unit or single house on each of the lots, which is covered under R8. Okay. And I'll get into what the rest of the area looks like because it's a little more detailed than was pointed out by the city about the area. I have a map that has a 1 mile circumference, and I will have to say that it's all over the place. I mean, there are R6s, there are all kinds of stuff, R20s, it's all mixed up. But in any event, this R8 is in keeping with the requirements, which is the 5 requirements under the public policy section of the regulation. So what we have is the requirements for R8 are made because it's 72 to 73 feet on the front of each of these, and it's a minimum, it's more than the required 8,000 square foot for one and 4,000 square foot for the other 3. So one lot is 10,000, one lot is 10,000, the other lot is 10,000, this is 10,000, and the other one is over 10,000. So it meets that particular requirement of the 10,000 square foot and the 8,000 square foot and the other 4,000 square foot. Now, earlier in this process, I did send to the city attorney some case law as it relates to the surrounding area. Okay, so she has the North Carolina Court of Appeals decisions on that, so she can talk to you about it. What I'd like to show you here, and I know you really can't see this, but I just kind of want to point out to you, I'll hold it up high. This circle right here represents a 1 mile radius from where the property, the subject property is, out 1 mile. So we compared these to all the maps that the city have. So within this, what we would like is proposal number 1, which is R8, is that right close to it is a whole development of R6. There's another R6, which is 20. There's an R20, which is close to that. There's another R20. There's an R10A. There's an R15. There's an R8. There's a slice of another R10. And there's an R20. So to say the whole thing is rural is not correct. Okay? It is more than that. It is a hodgepodge, a mixture of a lot of things. So one of the things, you know, Highway 55 West, you know, the Pleasant Hill area, it's a depressed looking area. I mean, it's not downtown New Bern. I mean, it's a depressed area. And the whole point that my clients wanted to do is create some single housing for residents to kind of improve what it looks like on Highway 55. I mean, that's his goal. Low income housing that people could afford, where, you know, you have the front of the house is 25 feet and the rest of the house is 40 feet. So, I mean, you got that's the goal. And I realize, and I understand that when you zone something R8, or my other option is going to be R10, I'll talk about in a minute. But when you zone something, you're not necessarily zoning it specifically for what this particular applicant wants. I get that, okay? But I'm explaining it to you in a way to tell you that although that's the case, it is Mr. Dillahunt's motive and intent to help the neighborhood and help people get into better housing in that particular neighborhood and make the neighborhood look better than it is. I mean, that's his ultimate goal. So that's kind of the circumstances around R8. Now, as lawyers never talk about there's only one road to Vanceboro. There are more than one roads to Vanceboro. And so we like to give, at least I do, I like to give people making a decision, I like to give them options. Okay? So I've got another option. So the other option is 15136B4, which is R10. And this one is a little tricky, and it's going to require some creativity, I think, on y'all's part. But an R10, as y'all know, is single or two family homes with a $10,000 for one family dwelling and another $5,000 if it's two. So if you had, what this plan does, it cuts down on the lots at 750 from 4 to 3. Okay. However, it doesn't meet the strict requirements of R10 because each of these are not 15,000 square feet. Okay, they're a little less than that. However, if you look at the Planned Unit Development Establishment, the PUD 15-86, I'll read to you the A part that gives you some flexibility. There are hereby established different planned unit developments as described in this section. Each PUD is designed to accommodate a range of residential, commercial, or industrial uses, either singularly or in combination. The intent of a planned unit development is to provide the necessary flexibility to encourage creative land development while working with the density and permissible use requirements mandated by the established zoning district and the city standards for streets and other public utilities. The bottom line is, Mr. Dillahunt wanted to use his land, which was recently annexed, as you know, in January of this year. And it's not like we're rezoning, this is a new application. And as you also will remember, Mr. Dillahunt filed the initial application, and you had to go back and we had to do it the other way, where the city was the actual applicant on this one. So that's why it took some time to do. In this particular instance, the whole goal, Mr. Dillahunt's goal and his daughter's goal, is to create some housing for low-income people and make the neighborhood look better. That's all he's trying to do. He's not trying to get into the commercial real estate business. He's not trying to build multifamily units. He's not trying to build apartments. He's not trying to do any of that. He's actually trying to do something good for his community, because now, how old are you now, Mr. Dillahunt? 82? 78, okay. So 78 years old. And so, you know what happens when the older you get, just like all the multimillionaires in the United States, is that when at the end of their lives, what they like to do is they like to leave a legacy. We all want to leave a legacy. And so this is legacy that Mr. Dillahunt wants to do. He's not in it for the money. He's just in it to help people and to improve the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Go ahead, Kip. If they're willing to answer questions, I'll.
Okay, several questions for you, Gary.
I don't know that I can answer them.
You probably can.
And Mr. Dillahunt could probably answer them better than me.
Okay, last time we talked about this, the commercial property behind this lot, this bill, there was supposed to be a 30-foot easement coming through this piece of for access to the commercial property. I didn't see that on your plan.
Okay, I think that's on Mr. Dillahunt's property that goes apart through the two sections. In other words, if you look at this, there's a piece of property right here that Mr. Dillahunt owns.
Yeah.
It's not annexed. Okay, that part is not annexed. So he has some property back here. So you're talking about an easement that went this way or went across here and went that way? Because there was no plans to have an easement from here to here.
Well, that's what I understood last time we heard that. Because that would have taken up 30 feet of that and changed the dimensional requirements. The second question I have is under the R10, the lots need to be 10,000 square feet?
Plus 5 if you have one or more, if you have more than one unit.
Right, but you got 40,000 square feit. You got over 40,000 square feet in that lot, so you could actually put 4 lots on there.
Well, I've got 10,000. Well, if I have 3 lots, they come to about 14,000 apiece on 3 of the lots at Highway 750.
Right.
So it's 14 times 3. Okay. But
what I'm saying is, if we zoned it R10, he wouldn't have to do 3; he could do 4, because there's over 40,000 square feet, so you would have 10,000 foot lots there.
I think that under R8, though, it has to be. Well, if you do it under R10, each of the lots have to be 15,000 square feet.
I don't think so.
Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm wrong,
If you just have one dwelling on the lot, I'm reading I think if you have one dwelling on the lot, it can be 10,000.
Right. Okay. All right. So if he had a duplex,
right,
with 2 on each of the 3 lots.
Mm-hmm. If you go into multifamily, that's 5,000 for the next lot.
Yeah, actually, 10R is compared to 10RS, I believe, or A, actually talks about 1 or 2 family units, where the other one talks about multiple. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about either the ability to put 1 or duplexes, where you got 1 family or 2 families under R10. But if you put 2 families under R10, you got to have that, and you can't You gotta have 15,000.
Right, and I'm just going from what you're showing us, which was 3 single-family lots.
Right.
And, you could do 4 single-family lots on that parcel.
You could. That's right. You could do that. Okay. I'm just giving you options about what you could do.
I think if what you're talking about is R10A. In R10A,
Yes.
you can have multifamily
Yep.
Right, but
in a 10,000 square foot.
But if you do
But I'm-
R10S, doesn't that limit it strictly to single family?
Single family, right?
No option for
That's right.
multifamily.
So you
stuff.
can do R10A and do what you're saying and still have duplexes.
Do you have any more questions?
No, that's,
All right. Thank you.
what, Kendrick, what is the front setback in those?
For R-10, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's 25 feet. So, and that's for from the front property line, that's where it's taken from. And I believe it's 10 feet on the side, and then it's 25 feet off the rear. And that's across the board for each R10 district.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
And Kendrick, can you remind everyone the lot size requirements when you create a new lot, like would be done in what was just presented, just so they understand that?
Sure. Are you talking about the minimum lot width that's associated
The
with it?
dimensions.
Yeah. So as far as for the dimensions,
And the range of
Recommend that they do, and they would then have to reapply? What is that process? Yeah, the mics just came on. So how does that work?
So the notice that went out for this meeting was notifying the adjacent property owners of R20. So anyone who might have had comments in favor or opposition would have known about R20. They would not have known about R10, R10S, R10A, R8. And perhaps if that information had been in the notice, people might come out and have comments. So in that regard, I'm a little nervous about recommending something other than what was in the notice. However, what I would say is if you are inclined to not recommend R20, what you can do is you can instruct staff for the Board of Aldermen meeting to notice other zoning designations so that people at the Board of Aldermen have an opportunity to come and talk about R6, R8, R10, R20, A5F, whatever it is that you think should be a part of that public discussion.
And so then the process could continue, and then there could be some type of discussion at the Board of Aldermen meeting, and then they could vote however they saw fit.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
One more question.
And it's important to bear in mind, Mr. Clemens made some comments about some cases that he shared with the city attorney's office, and he's absolutely correct. I would like for you all to bear in mind the concept of illegal spot zoning, okay? And we talk about spot zoning all the time, and spot zoning is only bad when it's illegal. And we think about illegal spot zoning by analyzing a couple of different factors. So one of those factors is the relative size of the parcel that's in question related to the surrounding area. And I think, you all have the dimensional standards here about the acreage of the parcel, and you're able to see visually depicted the size of the parcels in the surrounding areas. And I think if we can go back to Mr. Clemens' exhibit, which is zoomed out even farther, I think that gives us some additional context about the relative size of this less than an acre parcel versus the larger geographic area. Another consideration is how many owners are involved in the rezoning, and in this case, we have a single owner that's looking at restricting this tract. And the courts say, well, when you have a bunch of owners that are asking for the same thing, it's less likely to be illegal spot zoning. But when you have a single owner, then we have to scratch our heads a bit more. Another consideration that you want to bear in mind is when we have a small parcel that's being either restricted less or restricted more than the surrounding land areas. So if we think about what is the appropriate vicinity, if we look at Ms. Rue's picture here, we have a relatively small parcel that is being proposed to be something as dense as R8, which is vastly different than we see the surrounding areas. If we zoom out farther, if we want to use a 1 mile vicinity for a half-acre tract, which I think that there's some issues of scale there, but let's just go with it for the sake of argument, we have to think about how much or less restrictive this particular use is for this single ownership small parcel related to the larger land area. So as we're thinking about, which view should we use, you want to have those factors in your mind, and you want to think about size and scale as we're trying to determine what is the appropriate compatible adjacent land use.
Is there any concern on your part, the city attorney, about conditional zoning as
Yes.
we're having this conversation? Because
We don't have conditional zoning as an option.
so what I don't want to do is say, if you zone it this, we'll vote this. I don't want that said, because that's not what we do here.
That's not
So
what
I just
we do.
wanted to make sure that was.
Contract zoning is illegal, and we do not have conditional
Correct.
zoning.
Okay.
So as we're looking at this and we're evaluating these proposals, we have to look at all possible uses in the proposed zoning designation. So an R20 is essentially a single-family residence. In I think as we get more dense, R10, we can have a couple more flavors. So R10 can get us permitted by right, single-family attached, duplexes, short-term rentals, that kind of thing. But within R10, we got an R10S, which gives us exclusively single-family. That's all you can do. And R10A, which does allow for single-family attached duplexes as well as multifamily residences. And if we go a step more dense to R8, we also have the option for the single-family attached duplex as well as multifamily. So the critical difference between R20 and the other proposals that are being presented to you tonight is whether the multifamily use would be compatible, consistent, and reasonable.
All right, and then my last question, since the attorney brought it up, can we take both items C and D and treat them together with a motion?
If your vote is going to be unanimous on those two items, you can.
Okay.
But considering, it's up to the board if
Right.
you want to do it that way. I think Mr. Clemens' arguments focused a lot on parcel 822230001.
Yes.
I don't know if he has any additional commentary about the smaller parcel.
Other than it's large enough to handle all of them. In other words, it still fits. The whole idea is to put it under R8, to put one house there, with the single-family house. And that was all part of the plan. So that's why I just said there's not much to say about that one, but the plan for R8 and R10 would be the same, and the dimensions of that one particular lot would be enough to handle either one.
And also, an important note is you don't have to make the same recommendation for the two parcels. So if your recommendation is going to be the same for both, then you can handle them together. If your recommendation may differ, then you want to take them one at a time.
Go ahead.
You brought up the planned unit development.
Yeah, the PUD.
Okay, and I mean, which, a planned unit development for a less than an acre site, I mean, is that even feasible to implement? I mean, because planned unit development also requires some common space, I believe, to be involved. I mean, you opened that, and I just want to understand
Yeah.
where you're going with that.
Well, I included both of the tracts, which is 1.24 acres. When I put that in there, when I made that comment, I was looking at all of them as 1.24 acres, which is,
Yeah, but they're not contiguous.
well, I know they're not, but they can be in the same plan together if you zone it a certain way. I mean, because that's the whole plan, to do it all the same. Not on one to have a bunch of stuff and the other one is having totally different stuff. That's not the plan. The whole plan is this R8 to have single-family housing on each one.
Yeah.
4 lots under R8 and 1 house on the other.
One last question for staff, if I may.
Absolutely.
The second parcel of land does not qualify to be a 20,000 square foot lot.
Right.
That's correct, sir.
So how can that work if the city is requesting an R20 on that particular piece of property and it's only 13,242 square feet? How does that play into?
Yes, sir. I'm going to defer to the Assistant City Attorney here.
Yeah, so because that lot is already existing, it's not being zoned and then trying to make made less than that 20,000 square foot requirement. It would be an existing nonconformity.
So you could zone it R4.
You can zone it R20.
In the house, I mean, there's already a house foundation there on the lot. So it could be just an existing acknowledged non-conforming use.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there any difference in the definition of spot zoning because this land has recently been annexed by the city and not been zoned before versus being rezoned and changing zoning?
I think the fact that it has been unzoned is relevant to the analysis. If it was previously zoned, agricultural, and we were talking about going to something industrial, then certainly that change in use would be relevant. But in this circumstance, because we're dealing with a blank canvas, there's not much that we can do in the way of comparison to a previous zoning classification of previous uses.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but the research in the cases that we read, spot zoning was only used in cases where there was a rezoning, not a new zoning. Is that right?
I do not remember your cases chapter and verse, but there are certainly cases that analyze initial zoning as well as rezonings.
And I am remiss, I forgot to introduce Isabella Malagisi. She is a third-year law student at my alma mater, Campbell University School of Law in Raleigh now. And next year this time, she will be sitting for the bar exam to become a real lawyer, whatever that is.
I like the definition.
Present company excluded.
I like the definition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just add for the board's clarity, we can't look at a PUD on 2 pieces of property that are not contiguous and couldn't be combined. So that's not an option.
Any other questions for me before I go sit down?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open it up to the board for discussion.
Well, I'm going to follow up on Rusty's operational mode, and I haven't changed my mind since the last time. I've seen nothing to happen here. That when we discussed this as a board previously, we recommended that they go back and seek an R20, and they didn't do it, but the city has recommended it, and in my mind, that's a very appropriate zoning for these particular pieces of property. And as long as that second piece of property can be dealt with as an existing non-conforming property, I have no problem with zoning these properties R20.
Need further discussion? In your motion, would you, or
That was discussion.
fair enough. You're correct. Is there any appetite from the board to put some type of notice in for the other zonings other than R20?
I would ask that you do that because I believe in the staff report when this moves forward, I'll include the requests that were brought up tonight in an analysis of what was discussed and the pros and cons for all things. I think it would be very appropriate here, given the various options to, when we send out the notice to walk through the options of R10, R10S, R8, and the recommended RA.
And if we don't do that, you can't notice it?
That will allow this to move forward and allow the Board of Aldermen to make the decision they feel is appropriate. They'll have your recommendation, but the public will also have the opportunity to know, oh, hey, some of these densities are something I might be concerned with, that they didn't have that notice for this. So they'll have it the next time. They'll still be given notice. In many communities, we don't even notice it.
But if we don't feel that we want to recommend that, we only want it to be R20, then we would notice that, and then you guys couldn't notice the other?
So I think what the director is asking for is direction. So your recommendation is only bound to, is the proposal that's before you good or not recommended? Those are your options. After that, I think the director is asking for you to give some direction so that she can notice, so that everybody has an opportunity to have a full discussion as we have done today.
Perhaps another motion made?
Direction is
Just
fine.
direction.
Don't
Just
need
direction.
a motion. So first things first is, how do we feel
Right,
about R20?
100%.
I do think it's relevant to note that this is on an extremely busy road, and these houses are going to be right off that road. And this is a road where there's already been fatal accidents and things like that. So that's something to consider. Just throwing it out there.
And I'd ask also, if you're making a motion, to clarify if we're voting on C and D or just C, and you want to hear D separately.
I was going there. I appreciate it. Any further discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion on either C or either 6C or to combine them. And them would be 6C and 6D.
Okay, I'll go. I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Aldermen to deny the proposed initial zoning designation. Wait a minute, this is just for R20.
This is R20.
Okay, sorry, let me change that. I move that we recommend to the Board of Aldermen that we approve the proposed initial zoning designation and findings that the proposed designation is consistent with any comprehensive or applicable land use plans and determined to be reasonable and in the public interest.
And that is item 7C.
I would make that motion for both C and D.
I would second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call on this one too, why not?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with Board Member Danielle Peoples,
Yes.
and then Board Member Kit Paraguith,
Yes.
Chairman Brad Jefferson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rusty Ingram,
Yes.
Board Member Kelly Kaiser,
Yes.
Board Member Thomas Brownell,
Yes.
and Board Member Marshall Bowling.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, it's a clear 7-0 vote, so it passes.
Roger.
But
Okay.
I would also make the recommendation, Mr. Chairman, that we request that staff go look at R10 and R8 and give those options to the Board of Aldermen and let them make the choice.
Anybody opposed to that?
Can we define that 10S, to add an S to it?
Yes, I'd say all.
Yeah,
all of them.
I'd say that's probably right.
Yes.
Sorry, I left that one out. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, R10S, R10, and R8. And let the Board of Aldermen make the choice.
All right, I like that. So let's move on with that to item number 7E. The 700 Red Robin Lane rezoning.
All right, for our next item here, we do have the REZ 003-118-2025. This is 1700 Red Robin Lane, and this is the rezoning request. So the request summary here, the applicant is New Bern Wash LLC. The owner is Stephen Umstead. Location is 1700 Red Robin Lane, New Bern, North Carolina, and the current zoning is Industrial 1, or I-1, and the requested change is to go to Commercial 3, or C3. The parcel identification number is 8-208-27000, and the size is 1.84 total acres. And for the Industrial 1 zoning district analysis, the Industrial 1 is an established district in which the principal use for the land is more industry-related. So this essentially promotes a quiet manner for such uses that are more like your warehouses and things to that effect, more industrial style of use. The regulations are designed to prohibit the use of land for heavy industry, hence the I-1, the I-2 is more intensive, and which should be properly also segregated, and to prohibit any other use which would substantially interfere with the development of industrial and wholesaling establishments in that district. And in the comparison for Commercial 3, the zoning district analysis, as you've heard already, it's more or less along the lines for offices, personal services, and the retailing of durable and convenience goods. These districts, again, usually and typically located on high traffic arteries, and essentially they accommodate said uses and also are expected to provide suitable plantings, so for screening purpose. And the uses comparison chart, again, you have Industrial 1 on the left-hand side, and you have Commercial 3. I'll leave that just for a moment so that you can view it. And the first map we're looking at here is for the subject property, and this is the vicinity map. And we'll follow that once more with the buffer map. That's just within the 100 feet, all the different properties that are within that range of the buffer in accordance with the subject property. And there is the aerial map behind it, and that is what is on the ground currently. And that's followed by our zoning map, which reflects that Industrial 1 zoning district, and then to the north and also to the west, you have the C3 pretty much abutting or adjacent to the actual property. And to the south, you've got Industrial 1 once again abutting that property. And the action needed by the board at this time would be the adoption of the consistency statement and a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. But if the board has any questions, I'll take those at this time. Board have questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
When the car wash was built, it was built on a I-1?
Yes.
Okay.
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
Huh?
To my knowledge. I wasn't here when it was put in play, but Industrial 1 on the table, I believe the car wash is permitted by right as well.
By right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So is there any indication why they want to go to a 3 if it's a permissible use in the property that they already bought?
I'd probably have to defer to the applicant on that. I don't have any clues as to what may have spurred the initial request, but probably the applicant's going to be better to answer that.
Okay.
Kendrick, would
Yes,
this
ma'am.
be considered downzoning?
That's a great question. And you know what? We may have to revisit that because I don't want to give you an answer that I'm not certain of. There's a potential.
But this is happening with the consent of the property owner, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the property owner is the owner for New Bern Wash LLC. So, that's my recollection serves me right, so.
So the problem is not that we just can't downzone, we have to have a written request from the owner, which with this application we have. So it's a great question because they're very different types of uses, but this one is supported. It's not like a text amendment that's removing uses from a whole bunch of people. Yeah, but good question.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Thanks, Kendrick. With that, I'll open up for the public comment. Anybody has, not the applicant comment, but the public. Are you the applicant, sir?
Yeah, well, I'm not Steve, I'm the other.
Okay, we'll let you speak on behalf of the applicant. But is anybody else here for the public comment for 3 minutes. Seeing none, sir, would you like to speak? Just introduce yourself, give your name, that kind of stuff. Speak into the mic, if you will.
Yes, my name is
Yeah,
Michael.
it's maybe working.
Michael Rushing, and anyway, I'm partners with Stephen Umstead on Newbern Wash LLC, known as Tiki Express Car Wash. What I would like to say, when we purchased the lot, it was fully industrial. It used to be Jeffrey's, as a Budweiser distributorship, and so that whole section, which was like 5.4 acres, was all industrial. And then the food bank initially bought the back half of it, so that was fine for them to stay industrial. And I didn't really know that a car wash could be an industrial, but the gentleman that I dealt with before was Seth Laughlin, who was the planning department. He said, "Oh yes, yeah, a car wash can go here," but we didn't really need 1.83 acres for the car wash. We needed just a good, acre and a quarter, something like that. And so our plan was to have a segment of the lot to sell off. It would reciprocate business for us as well. And the car wash would also fit the harmony throughout that retail district. And so, because we're on the second row there, but McDonald's is also on the second row, so we just feel like that it would go along. I've heard y'all say harmony several times, with the harmony of that district. And we're not right now. We've got a couple things in mind of clients that are looking at it, but until we get it zoned right, the setbacks really don't allow us to build anything. When the industrial zoning setbacks make it so minute, we can't. It's really the land's dead without having it be rezoned, because we have I think it's 0.69 of an acre to do something with, but there's just nothing that can go on it due to the setbacks under industrial. So that's where we need C3.
Okay.
So that's between you, the car wash, and Lowe's. The Lowe's parking lot is that sliver of land there is what you're talking about?
Yeah. So what we did was we tried to help alleviate some of that traffic by building that road across the back end, and also hoping that Lowe's customers would attend the wash. And then that other lot, at one time I thought maybe an oil change station or something like that, but there's pretty saturated on that street with oil changes, so I got that out of my mind. But we've had a few different things. We've had Little Caesars, we've had blood banks, which definitely would not do. Like plasma donation centers, which is not the customer we want. We've had several different things. We've got a couple things in mind ourselves that would be helpful for the wash, but also fit with the community standards. So, we're just hopeful that we can, get it zoned that C3 so that it makes the lot sellable, so that the setbacks, there's something to be built there, and we're just not using it to mow every other week. We did, the city had a ditch that went along the backside of that, and there was all kinds of just, needles and everything, where people would stay in their storage units where the Lowe's were, and then at night they might sneak out back, doing whatever. So we spent $26,000 on that. We cleaned it up, filled it in, piped it all in, we thought it would make it look cleaner, but it was all benefit of the city because it was the city's land. And then I think that road at the back end helps with the traffic. So anyway, we'll just ask that you look at it, and hopefully what we're asking will work for the city.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
With that, I'll open it up for discussion of the board. Anybody like to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion that we accept the application.
Find it consistent, inconsistent?
Consistency with
Okay.
the rest of the neighborhood.
So you recommend it to the Board of Aldermen, you find it consistent?
Yes.
That's your motion? Okay.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 7F, 2960 Old Airport Road, initial zoning.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for our last item of the night. This is REZ 003-128-2025. And this is for 2960 Old Airport Road, and this is the initial zoning. And please bear in mind, this has not been annexed as of yet, so we have kind of reversed somewhat of that process. So right now, you are still approaching and looking at this in a similar fashion, but this is still the initial zoning. The request summary here, the applicant and owner is St. Bartholomew's Anglican Church, and the location is 2960 Old Airport Road, New Bern, North Carolina. The current zoning, of course, unassigned. The requested change or request to zone is going to be residential 8 or R-8, and the parcel identification number is 7-105-1002. The size is 2.86 total acres. And going into the residential 8 or R-8 zoning district analysis, the R-8 district is to accommodate single, 2, and multifamily dwellings with a minimum of 8,000 square feet per lot, and thereafter for for 4,000 square feet for each additional unit. And it also encourages the continued use of, as far as for land for residential purposes, it's to prohibit commercial and industrial, and then to encourage the discontinuance of existing uses that would not be permitted as new uses in this district. And additionally, it is to discourage any use that would potentially generate traffic or minor streets other than normal traffic to serve residences on those streets. And the first map here that we have is just viewing the vicinity map of the property. Again, it's highlighted in red. And that's followed by our buffer map here, and that just shows the properties that fall within that 100 feet. Then you have the aerial map to reflect what's on the ground. And lastly here, the zoning map, which just shows you what's around. And the action needed would be for the adoption of the consistency statement and along with the recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. But prior to that, I'll take any questions if the board has any.
Kendrick, can you go back to the map?
Sure. The zoning map?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
So is this property, you said has not been annexed, but is intended to be annexed, but it looks like everything else around it is in the city limits?
Mostly, there's some of the more clear and white pieces that you see those are actually still the county pieces. So they're not within the city. You've got probably 1, 2, 3 there is what it looks or appears to be. So mostly everything is already within the city's jurisdiction. And then just remember, I know this is highlighted in red, but this property would be a fourth property that's technically in the county.
Say that one more time.
So this property right now is still within the county, but it's up for proposal for the initial zoning.
Okay.
So, and it's harder to see because it's highlighted with that overlay, so I apologize.
So there's an annexation request tracking right now?
There is an annexation request,
That's,
yes,
okay,
ma'am.
just for clarity.
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have clarified that.
We'd like to get to a point where these are tracking closer together, so we're not talking about initial zoning for properties that were annexed in January. So you'll probably start seeing this more often.
But ahead of time? I mean, is that legal
Yes.
for us to zone?
Because if it doesn't get annexed, it'll just...
You're not zoning it yet. This is purely a recommendation. So what I foresee happening at the Board of Aldermen level is item 5 on the agenda may be the annexation, and item 6 would be the request to assign initial zoning.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So that gives us zoning protection immediately after it's annexed in.
Sure.
I like that. Any further questions for staff?
All the pink down through there is C4,
That's correct, yes, sir.
and the yellow is R8.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, Kendrick. Appreciate it. And with that, I'll open it up for any public comments on this item. And if the applicant is here and would like to speak, we would entertain, not required, don't have to, but if they would like to, they're more than welcome to speak. Just state your name and introduce yourself.
My name is Jim Gill. I'm senior warden for St. Bartholomew's Anglican Church, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Does the board have questions for the applicant? All right. Hearing none. All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here. For that, I will open it up to board for discussion.
Kendrick, can you flip it to the next page, please? Yes, sir. I'll make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Aldermen to approve the proposed initial zoning designation and findings that the proposed designation is consistent with any comprehensive or applicable land use plans and determined to be reasonable and in the public interest.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Open it up to new business, if there is any. I believe there is. Since with no new business, we'll go to staff comments.
Yeah.
I don't have any comments. I understand that at the last meeting, there was a request for the Public Works Director, in my opinion, on possibly changing access requirements. George Charles couldn't be here tonight, but on the screen is the memo he provided stating he does not support any request to change the definition of direct or indirect access. We had a project before us, potentially that it designed in such a way they wanted to create lots that did not have access. That's absolutely poor planning practice, and I cannot support having any lots not have access, never mind very small ones that are already receiving a lot of relaxed requirements. We've had that discussion. I've had that discussion with some of you as members. However, it was asked for George's opinion, and that is before you on the screen as well.
Okay. Any further staff comments?
Actually, I'll make a brief comment. So,
All right.
for next month, as of this moment, I'm not aware that there should be a meeting, so cancellation would actually be going out for next month's meeting, pending that it stays that way. So, obviously, I'll try to confirm that and make sure to send out to you all that if it has actually been truly canceled. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
I have
Sure, go right
one
ahead.
more comment, actually.
Oh,
I was going to
yes,
give an
yes.
update on our land use ordinance.
Yes.
It's, been ages.
Is there an update?
There is an update.
Okay, good.
We're still meeting regularly. Based on feedback with developers, we are doing it in 3 sections. The first section is just about finished. We took an approach where all of the sections that are not impacted by this horrible legislation we're all dealing with about downzoning and all other kind of wonky planning things. They did that first, so that's coming in very quickly. I anticipate that mid to end of next month, we'll be having stakeholder groups again. Our consultant will be back in town for us to all start digesting those first pieces. We have directed them to keep tracking as if we are going to get our exemption from this legislation that we requested. Only one municipality in the whole state has been able to get this passed, from what I understand from my phone call on Tuesday. But there's hope, that means. Well, we were hoping for a broad just repeal of all this, or at least the sections of the hurricane recovery bill that impact this. That's not happened yet because things get traction and they pass one house and die in the other. So we're not quite sure. We think this is still a reality until at least next year when they reconvene. So we may have to pivot a little bit, but they are still, once we get past this first third that's coming, they're going to start drafting. And at this point, it is still as if we are going to get an exemption from that legislation. I'm not quite sure. We may have to have some really hard discussions because a lot of the direction we gave them about wanting conditional zoning and wanting to limit certain uses and completely reimagine our zoning map is not going to work under the current rules. So I just wanted to drop that. Stay tuned. We will be having stakeholder meetings resuming at middle to end of next month on that.
That'd be the steering committee as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, Kip.
I got to see my first subdivision decision sign today out on Highway 43.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it's sitting there and kind of on the edge of a field. Two questions about that. From what I remember, that must be where the right-of-way is coming out to Highway 43. And the other question was, is that subdivision plan on the website yet? So that someone that sees that sign says, what in the world is this? And how, other than come into your office, can they, without having to take off from work or anything else, how do they get involved in that and see what that subdivision sign, decision sign is all about?
Great question. Yes, sir. So we had actually made several discussions with folks and been working with legal counsel on how we were going to roll this out. And not a lot. I would say some things changed during its process in passing the text amendment to allow kind of for this process to take place through the Board of Aldermen. And specifically stated and expressed was getting notice, which we provide notice to all adjacent owners by letter that are within that 100 feet. Second to that point, the sign, of course, it has a direct contact number to our office, and then basically all they have to do is provide whether they want to do a records request to obtain it, or if they want to physically come in and see it, we can help or explain it to them either which way.
Okay.
So they have full access, full range. There is a 7-day period where the sign has to be placed out. As soon as they see the sign, they can call, and we have access to the actual files. As far as for the website, we do still work with Ms. Alice. She's our GIS personnel, and in some cases, for tracking projects, I believe she is putting those projects still in there. So it's still released to the different folks just so that they have it for record, and it should be being posted if I'm not mistaken, but if it's not, they have ample opportunities to still receive it. So we make sure that.
Just an opinion, driving along Highway 43 along there to try to find your phone number, you get killed. Okay? I mean, that's a heavily trafficked road with lots of traffic on it, and I never saw your phone number when I went by because it kind of caught me off guard. You might want to think about that a little bit.
We actually don't post the signs. We allow for the person that's applying to post the sign. The expectation, of course, is to actually place it on the property so that it is visible, because the intent is to make sure that people can see it. So we hope that folks definitely don't try to injure themselves or put themselves in harm's way.
Are there any requirements for the sign other than just post a sign?
Phone calls. To be realistic, I get several phone calls. So a lot of people actually do stop and take notice of the sign. Others receive by mail the adjacent letters, and they're calling us from that. And then in other cases, it's word of mouth. So it just depends on, because those subdivisions, when one person knows, they all know.
But there's no requirement the sign's got to be a 4x4 sign with this size font or anything like that on there?
There's requirements pertaining to the letter. I don't know the specifics to the sign. But
Okay.
the lettering has to be large enough in a specific manner. And it was discussed during the Board of Aldermen meeting. So we made sure with legal counsel to work in unison to make sure that that was properly assessed and put on the sign. So that's how we designed the sign, and I think the creators made sure to, of course, have that in play. So we took into account every point that we could. Okay.
Kip, are you correlating that when subdivision requests used to come to this board, that information would be available as our packet on the city's website if somebody wanted to view it?
Yeah. We would know what was going on because we got the packet,
Right.
and other than the people that get the letter within the 100-foot buffer, they're reliant strictly on that sign being posted and where it's posted. On this particular site, if I'm not mistaken, we rezoned it R6 back in the winter, I think, and it's way back in the middle of nowhere. And so if you posted it on the property where the lots are actually going to be, ain't nobody going to see it. So it was posted out on a very visible place right on Highway 43. And, but I guess the whole thing is, you see a sign for Joe Blow, the citizen, that says subdivision decision. How many people know what that means and what it's all about if we haven't promoted it very widely to inform the public that when you see one of those signs, there's something going on? You know, subdivision decision. That's what it says. That's it. And, you know,
I mean, next round of signs, we're open to changing them. If you have
well, I'm just like I say, this was an opinion, the first time seeing that sign, and because I know we talked about when that process occurred, to internalize it with staff, which I have no problem with. You know, it took the public out of the play.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that rezoning.
Yeah, and
That's
so,
where the fight is.
So it's something that I think there's some educational opportunities for development services to let the public know that process has changed, and if they see this is what it means and what you do. So that's just like I say, that's opinion.
No, I think
after
that's
a first experience.
Great idea for Colleen to do a post or something to kind of push and share this and the efforts we've taken, even though we don't have to.
Yeah.
If you see this sign, we want you included. We want you to know you can go to our website and see what's up. I really try to push. I love talking to people, but our phone rings off the hook, and anybody that can go to the website and figure out what they need and get it is a huge help to us.
Yes.
So, yeah. Good. Thanks for bringing that up.
QR code on it. I mean, everybody's doing QR codes now. Stop and taking a picture of the QR code.
Set it to the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're actually doing something.
The problem is getting to a QR code while you're driving by,
Oh, I know.
especially
You
on
have to pull
43. That's even more dangerous.
Now you got your phone out.
But if I really wanted to know, I mean, really,
Yeah,
I
if
was
you really
driving
wanted
by
to know,
and I
yeah.
saw it and I went, oh, I don't, what is that?
Right.
I would turn around, stop, get out, and I'd go through the sign, and get the QR code, go right straight to the site and figure out what it's got.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll open it up to public comment when no one's here.
The public has
The
left.
public has left, so I guess that's a moot point, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, we are adjourned.